Hello, welcome to the U2 Podcast, episode number 83, where we talk all things U2. And in this particular episode, we're going to be talking your U2-related questions. But for this episode, I'm joined to help with all your questions, because there is a lot of them. It was started as an idea that while I was sitting and watching a hockey game, that I should just quickly do an episode before I head off to Montreal and answer some silly questions maybe. And then all of a sudden, a flood came in, so I recruited some help all the way from Amsterdam. Caroline, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Chris. Thank you.
We've been teasing or wanting to have you on, teasing the idea of having you on, and haven't got to it yet. So this will serve as the warm-up, I guess, to your future full-length interview, in-depth discussion with your U2 history or something.
And eventually I'll join the U2 staff.
Oh, there you go. The pay is really good, and all the benefits,
Yeah.
Our connection, actually, yours and my connection goes back to, you were the person who first, air quotes, hired me to work with any sort of U2 fan site back on u2log.com, which I just noticed today, actually, I was going to mention before, that it doesn't resolve anymore. The site, what happened?
Yeah. You don't want to know. I was going to move the site to a cheaper spot, or back it up at least.
Uh-oh.
And then I deleted the wrong database. I deleted the live database. I do have an export, but...
Yeah. That's okay.
But it'd been offline it'd been non-functional for, I don't know, half a decade? Even more, I think. Yeah. I don't remember when we quit. 2011.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yes. But at any rate, there's still lots of U2 fan sites. That one just had its own unique flavor and style to it that was a lot of fun as well. But by way of introduction to the audience, I guess, who may not know who you are or your connection to U2 or anything like that, we always ask folks when they come on the podcast, what was the thing, the moment, the album, the whatever that got you into U2 in the first place?
Subconsciously, 1983, I heard U2 when I went out clubbing here in Holland, and it was New Year's Day. It was that song and the Clash's Rock the Casbah that really caught my attention. I didn't really know much about pop or rock music at that time, so I had no idea who the bands were or, what the songs were. But I remember those two songs, and a couple of years later, I think late 84, that's just 1 year later, I guess. Late 84, I saw a German live show from the Unforgettable Fire Tour. And that was it. I was hooked. I'd actually heard of the band through a couple of high school friends that had gotten into Jesus. They joined, I think they joined Youth for Christ or something like that. We were invited as friends, high school friends, we were invited to their parties, and they were sitting in a corner discussing war, I realize now.
Right.
Discussing the lyrics and their the Christianity in the lyrics. And we were on the other side going, what? But I remember that, and then I saw them on German TV, and I was hooked. I missed their Dutch concert at the time, because that was in October, I think. I became an actual fan in, I think, January 1985.
Right.
And very quickly thereafter, I joined the Dutch fan club, because I heard them on the radio, and I thought, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've, over the years, you've been involved with, I know there's a book that got published, like a fan club book. You've written for U2.com at least once that I know of for sure, if not other times.
Many times now. Yeah. There's 2 U2 books and the articles for U2.com. Yeah.
And what was the inspiration or desire, I guess, to start something like u2log.com back in the day when that sort of first kicked off?
Well, that grew out of a bunch of friends that hung out on IRC. IRC, for those who don't know, is sort of a precursor to Skype, I guess. It
Or
was
Slack.
Very, yeah.
Slack
It
without
was
the
Slack
fancy
without
interface.
the interface.
Yeah.
I mean, Slack is exactly that.
Yeah.
IRC with an interface. And this was around 95, 96. And we all met on Channel U2 on IRC, became friends, and a lot of us are still friends, best friends even. It was around 96, late 96, I think, that U2 were sort of finishing off the pop album in the studio, and they had a webcam in the studio. And not a lot of people were actually online at the time. It seemed like just us. The bunch of us were watching this webcam in the studio like day and night.
Yeah.
And the people in the studio, I think, not U2, but the people that were running that webcam, became aware of us, and they started doing sort of jokes. We'd comment on it, and they would put up jokes in the studio, and it was very funny. And we wanted to that funny thing, that humor that we had, was something that I felt was missing from a lot of, well, there weren't very many back then, but from U2 sites that were mainly North American at the time, because the web hadn't really broken through in Europe yet. So we wanted. I thought I wanted a weblog, which nobody had heard of, that would, you'd be able to quickly react to news, and we wanted to have wanted to take the mickey and be irreverent about the band, because a lot of the bigger sites were so serious.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted a secular, irreverent look at the band, sort of a British, Irish, Australian vibe, and kind of humor that doesn't really exist in North America. And that's why we started U2log.
Yeah, which it's a great, and I think even today, obviously taking nothing away from all the U2 fan sites that are out there, there is a bit of still like, and maybe it's my what's the word? My desire, anyways, or role or whatever with at U2 is a bit of like trying to, like you said, taking the piss or whatever, because they're a very serious band at times, and they have a very serious message, and they have a very serious desire to be artists and be creative and to have their art respected and all of that, which is they do. But then they also obviously are humans who have a playful side, who like to laugh, and even within the organization you can see that, and there's
absolutely
seems to be, they're fairly protective. They have their sort of inner circle, obviously, and they don't often let their guard down outside of that. But it seems like it's okay to laugh a bit every now and then.
Oh yeah, I mean Lipton Village was all about taking the piss and taking the mickey out of each other.
Yeah.
To show them how much you love them.
Right. Yeah, it's what family does, kind of almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you referenced earlier, the sort of U2 family that grew up in around you, or not around you, but like that you grew up with or whatever, and sort of that vibe of friendship and like a love for the band, but almost like the band could disappear for a while and the friendship obviously still remained. Even, I know you had a bit of a falling out with the band of sorts in terms of fandom anyways. Like
I had to at the time.
How come why do you think that?
Because I was getting involved with Gavin Friday as a fan, but also as somebody who wanted to help him in his career. And for a while, I think I had to show that I wasn't into it because of U2. That was still a big thing. He was also very wary about making his connection with U2 known. That's completely changed now, but At the time, I felt I had to do that. It was right at the time of the pop tour, and I'm still mad at myself for missing out on a lot of that tour. I only saw 5 shows. Could have been so many more, much more.
And so you stayed away for a while, a bit, like
Yeah.
from the band and even subsequent tours and stuff. A bit, like sort of, you're obviously aware that they're around and stuff,
Yeah.
but kind of like disengaging a bit from the band. And so, what you re-engaged Innocence and Experience kind of time frame, or what was a bit sooner?
Well, earlier, I think. I think once my working relationship with Gavin was properly settled, I had more time for other things.
Right. So you had your in the Christian circles, it would be like coming back to Jesus, but you had your coming back to Bono. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can't remember which. It must have been a tour or something, but I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
There's also a period. Those albums after pop.
Not a
Yeah.
fan.
Not a fan.
So
I
that's
got
what-
heavily back into them during No Line on the Horizon. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I distinctly remember you getting to write on YouTube.com a review of seeing, I think it was the Innocence and Experience tour, almost like where it was presented as if you weren't a fan as much anymore and now you were, or something like that. Where
Oh yeah, you have peaks and I don't know how to say it in English, but
Yeah,
you go
peaks
up
and valleys.
down in your peaks and valleys in your fandom. So I go,
yeah,
I don't, it's always in between tours. I get bored.
yeah,
Forget about how great they are, and
Yeah.
maybe don't like the album that much, and then you hear the songs live, and they come alive.
yeah.
That very much happened with Innocence and Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm guess I can only speak from having worked with 2 U2 fan sites. I don't know how many people
Yeah.
get to work with multiple U2 fan sites, but I think that's a common, like, the gap between albums gets longer, and you're like, okay, what's the point? And maybe we should shut it all down and dream it back up again or whatever. But yeah, so the in terms of U2 news, or actually before we go on, I was going to ask, are you seeing them on the Experience and Innocence tour at some point, or hoping to?
I am. It's funny. I read a quote from that interview that Edge did with Rolling Stone today or yesterday or whatever, where he's saying that this tour is for the real fans, or that. And I'm saying, yeah, but we didn't get any tickets. It's like, if you want to play for your real fans, give us tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got tickets. We scraped tickets together. We still haven't got everything we want. We got tickets to shows we didn't want.
Oh, okay.
I've got Amsterdam sorted, so that's 2 shows. I've got Paris sorted, but I don't want to go to Paris for maybe obvious reasons. It just doesn't. Ugh. It's a bit scary,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
We got tickets for Copenhagen. Okay, we're going to Copenhagen, and we wanted to go to Berlin, and I'm half sorted for that, and still need tickets for the other. But I have my sources.
Well, that's what it sounds. All of those places sound more exotic and interesting than what we get over here. But I guess it's just familiarity, because it's like Duluth, Tulsa, whatever. Don't sound as exciting
I'm sure
as Berlin.
Duluth is just as exciting as Copenhagen.
I'm sure it is. In reality,
Yeah.
it's a stadium, and you're inside, and yeah. But yeah, you referenced the Rolling Stone article just in terms of what you would find if you listened and subscribed to the U2 News Brief, which you can listen to on your Google, Apple, Amazon devices. You can ask for the U2 News Brief, and there's a couple articles dropped in Rolling Stone in the last couple weeks. Andy Green had interviews with Adam Clayton and The Edge at some point over the last little while, and just a couple mentions of for the the Asia Australian fans. Adam, of course, teased it again, but didn't say anything specific. There are parts of the world we just haven't been to for the past few years. We haven't been to Australia, Japan, Southeast Asia. We really haven't spent that long in Europe, so perhaps we'll lengthen the tour. But in reality, maybe we need to find a way of being in bigger places again. So, not really anything new to say for the Australian, etc. fans who aren't getting this tour as of yet. South American fans, there's lots of parts of the world they haven't been to with a tour lately. So, and any thoughts on plight of fans in far-off places that don't get the band?
It's impossible for them to go everywhere, but it'd be nice if they did.
Yeah.
You know. And if they play Japan, I'll go.
Yeah, you would go.
Yeah.
There you go. And it was funny, actually, Adams, he referenced Lord of the Rings as far as just Andy had asked him as part of the sort of Heart of Darkness or whatever part of the concert, and he referenced the Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth kind of gathering around and stuff, and it was just kind of funny to think of Adam sitting in his kimono watching Lord of the Rings series, probably the extended edition, I would imagine. But and then the Edge's interview as well, they both actually talked to Andy, asked them both about not playing Joshua Tree, and he mentioned something about how, like you said, we knew that we were probably coming. We knew that that people probably came to the Joshua Tree show but have not come to this knowing it was going to be more weighted towards new albums, and that's fine. This is for the fans of our more recent work, the more committed fans who were really listen to everything and go to everything. We feel okay about that. And Adam had said, I think we're all excited about the idea of not having to delve back into the Joshua Tree. So your thoughts on No Joshua Tree, as obviously we're talking spoilers for the concert,
yeah.
So sorry if that's news to you.
It's fine with me. I don't mind spoilers, but I've tried not to watch too much, or not even look at pictures that much.
Right.
But I have listened to the live Mixler audio broadcasts. Get up in the morning and then there'd be a show from God knows where in America, and I'd put it on and go to work and have the show on my commute to work. It's ridiculous, really, but
yeah,
that's modern technology. Great. I love the show. I love how it sounds. I don't even need the pictures. I love that there's no streets or pride. Well, Pride's there, but yeah. Streets and Pride are the songs that we used to hate on. Oh, not again! As spoiled fans going to multiple shows. But somewhere around, not the Joshua Tree tour, but the one before that, I lost all jadedness about set lists. I don't care what they play anymore. I just want to be there with my friends and experience it, whatever they have to give us. And if that makes me uncritical, then so be it. I'm 55 years old. I don't care. I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy them while it lasts.
Yeah.
Of course, the thing is, sometimes you want to hear that one particular song, and then they play it and it's meh, Mm-hmm. And then there's other times, for example, I hated the Innocence Experience album. The songs like Cedarwood Road wouldn't come alive from the album. And then when I saw Cedarwood Road on live, I thought it was the best thing since, sliced bread or whatever. It was,
yeah,
it blew me away. So you never know which song it's going to be that's going to make that concert special for you. So basically, I don't care what they play. There's always going to be that song.
Yeah, and that's what often I know we kind of dance around sometimes on the podcast, even of mentioning like there's only so many tours left, like whether it's 3 or 1 or none or whatever, there's some finite amount of tours coming, and so yeah, like I think that's where I know Matt's said this a lot too, of just being thankful that obviously we can criticize and we can talk and have fun with it, but like
Absolutely,
being thankful
yeah.
for just getting to enjoy the music still, and having a band that actually stayed together this long, even in itself with original members and etc. is I think a privilege we sometimes take for granted. So, but I know there's
I've had to mute some of the fights on Twitter. I just couldn't cope with it anymore. Come on.
I have most fans on Twitter, most U2 fans on Twitter. If I know they're a U2 fan, anyways, I have a U2 fan list that I'll dive into, but I don't follow a lot of them directly, which hopefully they don't take personally. But it's just kind of like my way of having those two worlds. When I need to get my U2 fan fix, I can dive in and then keep it. I
keep forgetting about lists.
Yeah, I assumed they were going to take them away, and so I didn't use them for a long time, and then I recently sort of dove back into them. But yeah, I'm not a news hound, so don't follow me for whatever Bono might have had for breakfast. But I'll tweet out when we're going live with the podcast is basically, and then otherwise I'm just complaining about the weather. So yeah, there's a bunch of interesting stuff if they like revealing in a fun way, I guess, about the current tour. If you go read those articles, they'll be in the show notes, which you can find it either in your podcast player if you're watching or listening, I guess, but you can tap through and find the links, or goodstuff.fm/ATU2/83 will be the link or the episode for this links for this episode. Yeah, so I've got Montreal coming up for my first experience in Innocence in a few days. But before that, I just wanted to get an episode out to the podcast listeners so that I won't be recording one Wednesday night next week like we normally would, because I'll be dancing or singing along, I guess, to the concert. That's what I was going to ask you. Are you a sit back and just sort of soak it all in, or are you jumping up and down at the front, or somewhere in between? When you go to a U2 show?
Generally, I am an observer. So in the past I would maybe jot down notes. Now I would tweet stuff.
Right.
On the Joshua Tree tour, I was a streamer. I mixed stuff. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I'd sing along. I'd never done that before. So, yeah.
So people can hear. And that's, it's a funny kind of like hearkening back to the old like mixtapes and recording of concerts that, bootlegs and stuff of the old. We had one of our staffers is a younger guy, Mason, who's been on the podcast, and he had posted a picture to this U2 Slack group of a bootleg. And he was like, "What is this?" I think it was Zoo TV era maybe or something, but it was just because there's a lot of bootlegs from that one in particular that I remember. But because it's like, well, if it's out there, it must be official material or whatever. And it's kind of just like, no, that's a bootleg that we paid way too much for. That now you guys just get a million copies of because it's just everywhere. Mixler, etc.
I used to be a big I didn't tape myself. I did have the gear, but I didn't tape U2 gigs. But I would swap.
Yeah.
Tapes all over. I had 1,000 to 1,200 cassette tapes, all U2 gigs.
Yeah.
And I had to listen to them all for the book we did.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are all kept safely in an archive.
Precursors to the databases that we now have.
Yeah.
Online. Yeah.
So do you have?
No, I sold them. Them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably to Aaron Govern of.
No, to a Dutch fan.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's crazy, the world we are in right now, and I know that's something the band obviously is grappling with, technology and how to incorporate it best into the shows and how not to, and just play the music and all that kind of stuff. So, which leads us into, in a kind of awkward way, into the mailbox, because we got I don't know if you saw the list. There's a bunch of questions, and we'll sort of have a little fun with them.
Okay.
But we'll start with someone I'm not even familiar with who this is. At U2.com, Sherry asked, who is Mephisto's dentist? So have you seen visuals? Or did you even want to know that? I guess you know what's going on.
Yeah.
You hear that.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
Yeah. So
I could give a boring answer to that. like all of U2 and all their friends and all their lovers or whatever, they all use the same doctor, so I suppose they all have the same dentist.
There you go.
Maybe you should bleep that. Maybe that's inside.
Well, I shouldn't say. I would assume they would have that too. It's not, yeah. Given the Godfather-like circle that they keep. But maybe you know this. This is probably really deep inside information. Why isn't Adam's Kimono thanked in the EI tour book? And Adam's Kimono, the Twitter account at Adam's Kimono, chimed in saying, "Why am I not listed in the credits? Why are there no glossy photos of me in the tour book? Why am I not featured on the huge screen at the shows? Why are kimonos and robes not included in the merch?" So
Maybe you're not sleeping with the right person.
Yeah, Adam is probably not the right person. You need to get to Larry is, I think,
Yeah.
where you need to be. Yeah, that makes sense. Just sleeping with the right person. At JT asked, do you think the Fly character may return one day? What do you think? I could while you're
I hope
humming.
so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my answer to it would be I hope so, and I could see in the playful way that they've sort of brought back the McPhisto character and sort of tease other characters here and there. I think maybe I don't know if he might have had the showman kind of character on the Joshua Tree tour, and maybe he's done creating new characters and he'll just kind of re-inhabit old ones.
Rotate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all the same character anyway.
Carol, can you just try refreshing your browser? I'm getting some buzzing from your
Okay.
audio. It sometimes seems like Chrome. Apologies, folks, who are watching or listening live.
Is that better?
No, it's still doing it, but might have to just live with it.
Okay.
Let's see where were we? Oh yeah, and this was kind of interesting one. At JT also asked. So I sent out the tweet asking for questions. I'm just going to read them more or less in the order, unless someone sent in a lot, and then they may get chopped off the end. At JT asked, as they enter their 60s in a few years, will we see the same presence of the band, or instead do you foresee a more conservative approach in terms of albums/touring? Which
Age doesn't seem to stop the Rolling Stones. I mean, they seem to be continuously touring. So,
yeah, I just follow. I saw they just played in Dublin at Croke Park, and it's like if they're still going, it feels like, you know, that's kind of like how I view life too. Is like, for me, my parents are around, and so like they're still the barometer of what old is, and my grandparents have passed, but that was like really old. So, I guess in the same way, if the Stones are around and touring, you two could keep going. I think, don't you think there's a desire to like scale back? They love the fan thing, but they also hate the touring life maybe a bit, or do you think they're good to keep going?
I don't think they know any better. Like, this is what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't if they hated the tour life. They wouldn't do 3 tours like
back to back.
Back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. At Beth and Bono asks, which disappointing shirt are you going to spend $40 on in terms of U2 tour merch? Have you seen any of the?
I've seen some. I rarely buy tour merchandising.
Yeah, I had tweeted at her because she's been to 11 or so shows already and would have a better idea of the merchandise than I would. I'm either too cheap or too worried that I'm going to buy the wrong size at the show, and then like I have actually from the 360 tour, I think I have How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb, I have a shirt that I bought that's too small, and so now it just sits in my drawer. It's a nice memory, I guess, but unless I lose a whole bunch of weight, it's not going to fit. So I'll wait for my kids.
I bought the Cedarwood Road T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
And then I found out that Gavin designed it. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But I don't wear it. I just don't wear band shirts.
Yeah. Beth Bono also asked, what do you think is the disaster that strikes in the middle of the How to Hold Me, Throw Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me intermission video, which Gavin has a role in? I didn't even think of that until I just asked
I didn't. I guess I haven't looked too closely. I've just listened to it, not really looked at the visuals, so I don't recall seeing a disaster.
Yeah, that's what I'll have to see it too. Someone else at New Wave Dame asked. I'm curious too. In Los Angeles, Bono hinted at it being pop. Thoughts? So.
They need to get over that.
Yeah.
I love pop.
Maybe it's just Larry that needs to get over it too. Okay, at T Darby 719 asked, when do we see Bono play the 3 chords he knows? I think with the bike accident he had and stuff, I don't know if he's playing guitar again.
Maybe he can play one
chord or the song one. Yeah. If Edge tuned a special guitar for him, and it was a song in D, then you could just strum the whole thing and it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just do bar chords maybe or whatever. So, unfortunately, I don't know that we'll see him officially play guitar again, but on tours we'll see. At JT asked, do you see the 2019 as the year of we have to go away and dream it all up again for the band? JT's very focused on the band getting old and stopping. It feels like the band.
I think they're on they have sort of second wind.
Yeah.
I think they're in a very creative
Great
era.
phase era. Yeah.
Phase, yeah, yeah. They shouldn't stop. Go
Yeah.
on.
I know
Go
Edge.
even go even further. Go out there.
Yeah. Like it feels like they could do the equivalent, like sort of Zuti or Actung Baby, and then Zooropa, and then what was like Pop's. Whether debatable whether Pop was the third part of that trilogy, let's say, but whatever it maybe could have been or should have been or whatever. But if Songs of Innocence and then Experience, and then whether they do Songs of Ascent or just something completely different, I feel like there's something in the water right now for them.
Do you remember the Glastonbury gig a couple of years back?
Yes. I mean,
When I watched that show, I thought, it's over. It's the end of the line. Like, this is not working.
Just something at the show, not that they were doing Glastonbury itself, but just something about
the lack of connection with the crowd. Like playing for a crowd that hated U2,
Right.
That generation.
Yeah.
But I think, they seem to have found a connection again.
Yeah, you could see someone like especially, I'd picture a Larry and an Edge, not knowing them at all, obviously, but just judging from exterior. But I could see them being very aware, like Bono would be very, very aware of the audience as well, I'm sure. But to him, it feels like for him it'd be a challenge to win them over again. Whereas Edge and Larry, it feels like they'd be more in the, well, piss off, let's just take our stuff and go home if they're not gonna like us or whatever, and it wouldn't be worth the effort of a whole tour to try and win people back. But they've seem to have done something. At Beth Bono asked, if you've been following set lists, which unplayed Songs of Innocence song do you most wish they'd play on a future show? And
I'm no longer a set list person and have trouble keeping up which song is on which album. I'm old.
They've they referenced in the Rolling Stone article that they have played a lot of the new songs on this tour. Little Things is the common theme that comes up, and that would be one that I heard it in Joshua Tree at the Joshua Tree show because they played it at the end of Vancouver's, and there was a bit of a dud there, but like I said,
would fit better in this tour.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah.
And then Showman, I'd like to see them just have fun with. Like, it feels like a fun song, but I can see how it wouldn't fit thematically necessarily in this tour. But
I've only recently started actually listening to the album now that I've heard it live. Enjoying it.
Yeah, because you have a frame of reference for the live versions now back to the sort of studio. Interesting. Okay, let's see. Next question that makes some sense to go. At New Wave Dame, why do you think the Edge is still wearing that jacket with fringe on tour?
I didn't know he was wearing. Maybe it's comfortable.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or he's getting sponsored for it. I don't know.
There is a Edge's flannel Twitter account as well that chimed in there somewhere too.
Really?
So of course, all of their clothing seems to pick up a Twitter account every tour.
Didn't this all start with Adam's hair?
That's still a secret.
I wonder who started that. I don't remember.
I can't remember either. At Atomic Bomb asked, when are they coming to Australia? Which I wish we could tell you. Atomic Bomb.
Yeah. Again, I might go if it's Australia.
Oh, Australia too? You'd go?
Yeah, because one of the original U2 Log crew has moved back to Australia, and he's one of my best friends, and I want to see him again. So.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, we never did have a full U2 Log meetup. That's a little too scattered.
No. Yeah.
That's the one benefit, I guess, to being North American focused or centric. I'm even in that. I'm not including. There's some folks.
Yeah, we were Australia, America, Amsterdam, London, and Dublin.
And Canada. I'm not American.
And Canada, yeah. Oh, and France as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very international.
At WTSHNN, which I think stands for Where the Streets Have No Name. Is it getting better, or do you feel the same? Is that all? Does love light up your Christmas tree? Who's going to ride your wild horses? So in order for me, yes, no, no, yes, and I don't know who's going to ride my wild horses. Can you remember the order of...
my horses, they shoot horses, don't they?
At Grown Men's asked, so when you use the YouTube app before Love Is All We Have Left, it appears to look and sound like a waterfall falling onto the crowd in GA. What do we think the significance of that is? Are we being baptized or reborn by water? Or is YouTube saying that everybody stinks and needs a bath from queuing all day? So
we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. I'll just say the official answer, at least as far as tour folks, was answered by Rick Lipson. There's a CNN story video that'll be in the show notes if you want to watch a bit of that, if you haven't seen that already. But your thoughts, Caroline?
Yeah, I was thinking if the theme or the underlying focus of the show was Bono's mysterious event that he went through. Since it's, they start off with the sound of an MRI. I thought this might be the event. Mm-hmm. Maybe a hole in an aorta or something, like an aneurysm. That was what I was thinking of, because my dad had one last year. So. And
you referenced a lot of circles or
hole a lot of circles and holes.
Yeah. Which is very possible, and that's what they sort of said, referencing mortality, anyways, in some form. So maybe depending on how deep you want to go into that and how specific they're being in the show, anyways. But at Mona Lizard asked, what are these upteen remixes of Love Is Bigger for, and who listens to them? So
there's this thing called clubbing, and people apparently still do that.
Yeah, that's, circling all the way back, that's what got you into U2, right? Well, not the club mixes, but...
Yeah, because, we didn't have... 12 inches. We had 12 inches. Which is what this has, evolved from, I guess. I don't know. It's just to get it out there,
Yeah.
To get it played, I think. So people, just like me, recognize it from, remember it from having heard it on the dance floor. Mm-hmm. What's that? Oh, that's U2. Oh, I must check that out. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, whether you love them or hate them, they're probably, if you don't like them, they're probably not for you. But if you love them, then they are for you. It's a simple way of looking at it, I guess. But I can remember like definitely Achtung Baby, they had a lot of remixes for, and sort of tried to get that out into other music cultures beyond their typical rock.
They're always looking for new fans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, this is the first tour they ever said that the existing fans are important.
Yeah, that's true. A question that was emailed in is kind of more of a rant, but why is merchandise and visual branding so ugly? I prefer a cleaner, more classic look, but their merchandise for I&E and E&I tours look so bad. Don't get me started on the merch for I&E of them laying in bed together. Who is the target audience? I hope there's not another U.S. leg of this tour. They need to go to Asia, Australia, etc., then call it a day. Take some time, go back to recording, and make it a risk-taking album. That seems to be a common, disregarding the merchandise thing, because we don't really know, you and I, we haven't been there yet, but this desire to
the beholder.
Yeah, exactly, that part. But also the theme of a lot of fans is they wish the band would take more risks, and I feel like it's a fair feeling to have, I guess. But I feel like when you actually think about just the structure of, it's not just four guys and the organization that they represent and the people, and there is a certain amount of they are taking risks each time they put out an album that it's not going to go over, and that'll be the last one. And all these people who've staked their lives and careers with them, besides their own immediate family, that sort of inner circle we've talked about, they ride along with them for better or worse. And so there is an element of, it's not just trying a new guitar sound for Edge or whatever, and that's all he's risking. They are sort of risking their careers each time they put out something new, I think. Even though it feels like, well, they're U2 and they can get away with anything, I think, they've shown that they can't in certain ways, in terms of sales anyways, and that kind of stuff. So do you have any thoughts there?
If you're as big as U2, it must be both scary and risky and difficult to be edgy all the time. Mm-hmm. And to take that risk. As you say, there's so many riding on it. So many people's lives riding on it. Livelihoods riding on it, I mean. I don't know, I've, my entire history as a fan, I've wanted them to be more risky and to do, you know, my favorite albums are Zooropa and, Passenger. I love that kind of stuff, but they're a mainstream band and they have a mainstream following and they want to keep that mainstream following, so they get the money to keep on putting on these spectacular shows, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if all they ever did was Passengers Europa, then maybe they wouldn't be as big. But then they wouldn't have the opportunity to do the big spectacle show that we love or enjoy, hopefully, in some form. And if you don't, then don't go to the show. But yeah, it's an interesting line to walk. And that's where I think, like I was saying before, the third album of this trilogy could almost be like something a little more experimental or a little more risk-taking, if you were. But then they do risk.
And what's more risky than putting your own life up on stage like that for everybody to see?
Yeah.
It must be terrifying for them every night.
It's kind of like I was explaining this to someone just a bit about the tour, and I could feel that the other person who's not a U2 fan, I could feel like them sort of glazing over a bit with like, oh, that's just Bono. He always does that. What, like putting his heart on his sleeve and life on display, as if, I think like he does for sure. It's a true statement that he does that, but it's also like,
it doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
because you do it all the time doesn't make it any easier to do it. In fact, as if you do a sports analogy or comparison, like for the athlete who goes out there and puts himself out into whether it's hockey or football or soccer or whatever, it gets harder as you get older physically. And I think that's an element of it for Bono, for sure, as we've seen, his physicalness of his performance. But and that's why things like the characters that he inhabits are created to allow him to sort of speak in a certain way that he otherwise feels uncomfortable with and doing night after night on stage. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of risk going on that maybe we just take for granted maybe with the band. So, speaking of risks, that's not really a relevant segue, but Eddie, I'll just leave it at Eddie because I mispronounce his name every time he sends a question in. Is there any way to get across to the band that the current relevance of Mothers of the Disappeared in the news and to the tour theme outweighs the meaningless challenge of not playing anything from Joshua Tree?
I would write it on a little piece of paper, and when you're in the GA, just hold it up to the stage. That's how we used to do it back in the day.
That probably is like the most meaningful, or that, or get Andy Green from Rolling Stone to ask them a question about it. But that would be the second most powerful way, probably. But yeah, I just saw, how YouTube and whatever, or Instagram, I think it was, randomly showed me like some video of a U2 fan that somebody posted on their Instagram account from years ago when they held up a sign that said drummer or guitar player knows how to play song X, and that's how they got on stage. Like, it's really that simple. Yeah. And then you can shout in the mic saying Mothers of the Disappeared, and then start. It
pays to advertise, as Bono said, I guess.
Yeah. At Burner Caffey asks, this would be relevant to you as the tour heads overseas, from me, but home to you. I really hope they play American Soul when I see them in Berlin because I want to hear it live, but can't imagine they will play the American section of the show in Europe. What do you think? If they don't, what could they play? So you haven't seen the show, but you've,
They can play it. I mean, we're not unaware of what's going on the other side of the pond. Mm-hmm. It's just as relevant here. And they might as well use a Dutch, if they play Amsterdam, they might as well put up a Dutch flag there, because we've got the same problems going on over here. Exactly the same. Yeah. So.
Yeah, actually, a good test of that for folks will be actually the Montreal show coming up next week, is what they do. Because as much as sometimes the rest of the world lumps us together, Canadians definitely don't enjoy being, especially the negative side of American news, don't enjoy being lumped in with America. And there's, we don't look down our nose at Americans, or by any means. We consume a lot of their media. We are involved in the news cycle, et cetera, and politics are very close because we're geographically very close. But we're not like rah, America is great. And we certainly don't resonate, I guess, with like the need to resuscitate America the way U2 seems to want to try to do, breathe life back into it in the same sense, or the same passion for that anyways. So I could see them going one of two ways, where it's just two shows, so they just play the same set list and move on. or they do try and tailor it a bit. Bono's had.
I mean, he has his, advisors. I'm sure they call ahead. So what's going on in this country?
Yeah.
Who's the big bully here?
Yeah.
And there's lots of, right-wing idiots all over Europe that they can
pick on,
make fun of.
Yeah. Which is what I was going to ask, whoever that happens to be. But like I've seen photos, and again, you don't have to reveal anything you're not supposed to or whatever. But like whether it's Gavin Friday directly or other people, but like he's writing down notes as he's watching the show, and then however much of their inner circle is also giving them feedback and stuff. And we joked, I think, in the last episode about like the video interns like nervously approaching Larry with like a new graphic for American Soul or whatever, and him like throwing his tea at them or whatever. But do you have a sense of like how wide a swath of feedback do they actually take for a concert or a performance where they actually give it obviously anybody's free to throw criticism at them, but like that inner circle, is it the four of them plus Willie and S. Devlin has been quoted a lot about production of the show and not much beyond that, or
it goes beyond that. They can't do it on their own, so they have their inner circle, but the people in their inner circle can't do it on their own. They discuss things with people around them, so the circle spreads wider, I think, than you think.
Right.
But I can only speak from my own little experience. I don't know how the rest. I mean, the example with like the intern, coming up with their own little graphic. That might happen. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sort of assume. I know on this tour, there's like whatever the local city is inserted into the Hold Me Thrill Me graphics at some point generally. Except for, I think it was different in Vegas where but they'll, yeah. Well, I assume. I mean, I don't want to get a big head or anything, but I assume all four of them religiously listen to this podcast, so I know that we have
absolutely
an effect on what's happening. So yeah. No, they don't. And we routinely get emails, as I'm sure we did back in the U2 log days, from people who feel like or assume that they're actually emailing Bono directly when they contact us through the U2 site. Just to be clear, we don't have a direct line to anybody there. We can't get you tickets. We can't. Yeah. Anyways,
I don't even have I'm not even that visible anymore, and I still get mail.
Yeah. Everybody still knows rumors.
Obviously not for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the list of questions we'll run through anyways for this episode. You can always send in questions, comments for the podcast by using hashtag #AskAtU2 on Twitter. You can tweet at me. I'm iChris if you want to. There's also a contact form on @u2.com, like I mentioned. I think it's under the About and then Staff Contact or something listing, where you can send in a comment if you want to anonymously or not. And that's how you can get your comments and questions onto the future episodes of the podcast. Caroline, if folks are wanting to tweet at you or keep up with what you're doing these days, what's the digital world look like
don't
for
at
Caroline?
Me.
She'll just block you, so no.
It's at CVODB. CVODB.
Right. And any digital homes these days that do you still do a website? Do you do those things anymore? Who has websites?
GavinFriday.com.
There you go.
Official website. U2log just still exists on Twitter. Very, very occasionally I might post something. I'll Mixler from it. I'll try Mixler Berlin and
nice.
Copenhagen and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Now that we have roaming in Europe.
Oh yeah.
I can do that.
Nice. And also for folks who are listening, if you listen to this, I guess, before next Tuesday, Wednesday, the Montreal stop is happening. That's the next tour stop as we record anyways. And there's an Acrobat tribute band, and December, the band from Scotland that we've had on the podcast, are putting on a pre-concert party at the Piranha Bar. The link to that, where you can buy tickets, it's $10 in advance or $15 at the door. You can buy tickets to come to that, and I'm planning to be there along with a whole bunch of other folks. I'm sure it's going to be a fun time, getting excited and in anticipation of the U2 concert the next night. And then also, I just want to mention U2songs.com is doing an event after the first show where the lead singer of another U2 cover band called Elevation, Sean Brady, is doing a solo show, taking requests, performing other band stuff as well as U2, and that one's going to be at Hurley's after the show, an Irish pub that's open till about 3. So again, links for all that stuff if you're trying to keep up with what's going on at goodstuff.fm/ATU2/83. And of course, you can also follow at U2, twitter.com/ATU2, facebook.com/ATU2com, Instagram.com is the same. And of course, just visiting at u2.com, atu2.com. All right. Thanks, Caroline. This is fun.
Thank you.
And we will, can't wait to hear your singing along with the Experience and Innocence tour when it rolls through town or nearby. And thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. If you were watching as we recorded live, we record live generally Wednesday nights, North American time anyways, and broadcast on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/goodstuff_FM, I believe. And you can be notified if you follow us along there. All right. Have a good day. See you later.